Hey, everybody, this is Scott Brearley from Soulmates and Suitcases, as well as Forward Walking Choices Coaching. This is my beautiful wife, Lisa. This is our fourth podcast or conversation, whichever you would like to call it. We're pretty easy over here. If you want to call it shit, you can call it shit. If you want to call it fantastic, call it fantastic. We're doing this just to maybe inspire the world to grow a little bit and change. I spent a lot of my life thinking I was growing, and really I was going backwards most of my life to get to where I am today. Anyways, I will pass it over to my beautiful wife, Lisa.
Thank you. Hopefully you'll call it great. Yeah, my name is Lisa Brearley, and welcome to our fourth podcast. Our theme or focus today is the power of decision. So, life really throws you curveballs, throws you things all the time, and you have lots of choices to make, and you need to make a decision and move forward. So, the way we've been running our podcast is a little bit of back and forth kind of questions. And so that's what we're going to continue today. And you can get to know us a little more. And maybe we'll have lots of people out there start commenting and adding something to spice up our podcast a little more, and to, of course, subscribe and share, because you can find us on our YouTube channel at the Brearleys and on Spotify. So that's Soulmates and Suitcases. So ask a question first.
What made you pick it as Soulmate and Suitcases?
Ooh, why did I make that choice?
Yes.
Okay, so it may be obvious for many, and it is an obvious answer, I believe. However, I chose it, and then I passed it by you, didn't I? Soulmate for sure, because when I met you back in 2021 at personal development work, and that first year together, we had quite the amazing sort of journey of learning. And I probably within the first couple of months of us being together, I don't know if you remember this, we used to email back and forth quite a bit. And I remember you emailing me and saying, oh, love Scott, or love your partner, or I even think he said mate once. I like some different stuff like that. And at one point, soulmate came up. I don't know if you started it or I started it, but it was like ding, ding, ding. So back then, that word soulmate, and at the time, it seemed a very romanticized kind of word. However, I get the feeling that soulmate is someone or yourself, however you want to look at it, seeing the best in you, and somehow like almost putting up a mirror to remind you to see the best in you. So that's kind of where soulmates came from. And suitcases, well, I don't think we've stopped traveling since we've met each other. So definitely those two things went together, and the teacher and me did alliteration and S&S, and Soulmates and Suitcases was born. And ChatGPT helped a little bit because the tagline is, oh my goodness, remember the tagline? Come with us to unpack love, life, and everything in between. I like that too, because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my decision. Were you good with my decision?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. What's kind of one big, well, lots of choices, but what's one big decision that you made in your life that kind of completely changed maybe the trajectory of your life? And from that, now looking back, what do you realize you learned from that?
Well, I went to this 3-day workshop, and I was a little angry, and I really didn't want to be here anymore. I was going through health stuff. I had been through a divorce, and I believe I had diabetes at that point. And so life sucked. And I went to this 3-day course, and how dare they try and upsell me to the next course? I was livid. I should say I probably stormed out of there. And I ride a motorcycle and I went out and I put my helmet on and I went to lift my leg over the bike and, there was a moment of clarity. It was almost like I got punched or the light bulb went on. And it was like if my bike mechanic told me that I had to put money in my bike to be able to ride my bike, which I used to classify as therapy. Now I still kind of do in a way, but now it's just getting out of your head and having some almost meditation. And so anyways, I realized what was wrong with this picture, that I would put money into an inanimate object before I would put it into my health, my mental health. And begrudgingly, and I will say begrudgingly, I walked in and I put my Visa card down and I was really tight for money and it was a fairly expensive course. And the whole time it was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And, I still paid for it and I went, and that's actually the course that I met Lisa on. And there's a big roundabout story there too, because I wasn't even supposed to be in the class Lisa was in. Ironically, though, thank COVID. Not that I really believe in COVID, but thank COVID.
The
fear of COVID. I ended up going to Alberta to do the course rather than the States. And it was the first course that they had done at that magnitude in Canada, or else I would have never met Lisa. And that's kind of, I'm starting to really believe in manifestation in my life. And that'll be another podcast later. However, it's also about making a decision, because the decision is final. Like people say a decision isn't final, but it actually is. It's only a thought. If you don't act on your decision, it's only a thought. And then the decision, because the decision is genocide. It's like absolutely hammering it home, and you're doing it because you've decided.
And with that, that's similar. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's
I know
okay.
you're
No.
in mid-thought. Similar to the idea that, you hear a lot of people say, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And it's like, no, actually knowledge with power and action. That's the changing point. So
100%.
exactly kind of what you are saying, that the decision is an action. And again, so when you made that decision, how is it that, let me see how to word this. So what is it that you realize about yourself when you make the decision, whether the result is a good or bad, quote unquote, result? Like, what do you understand about yourself?
Well, generally in my life, before I make a decision, I do a lot of thought process about it. And when I do thought process about it, even if it doesn't end the way I want it to end, it still ends the way it's supposed to end. And there's times where I will act without really thinking, and sometimes those don't make me feel good because I don't quite act the way Scott would like to act in this world. And, I know I'm human, so I don't beat myself up for it. And those moments are smaller than they used to be. It used to be more the opposite way, where I would just react and act and wonder why I couldn't fit in anywhere. And yeah.
Yeah, and we'll explore more of that, like you're talking about wanting to do manifestation down the road, and we'll explore more the topic of even ADHD and addiction, and we'll kind of get more into that in depth with that over the next while. The one thing that you talked about, making a decision. Oh my gosh, that totally left my brain. Okay. What's next?
So what major decision have you made in your life that has transformed your life?
Probably the biggest decision I made, and I didn't know that I didn't even realize the words were coming out of my mouth, I think, when I made the decision. But it was the day I just went for a walk with my dog, came back home, my ex-husband now at this point, who was sitting on the back deck. And I sat down and I right there and then said, I need to move on. And I was scared as hell to say it, and it came out of my mouth and had a big relief out of my mouth, out of my body. I mean, a big kind of relief or release, whatever you want to call it. And I stuck to my decision. I was not wavering at that point because I knew I needed to make a choice. So that was probably the biggest thing that affected me and other people around me as well. But yeah, totally changed the trajectory of my life.
How do you approach making big decisions?
Ooh, that's a great question. How do I approach it? I'm kind of like you. I need to process some things. I don't respond quickly. Maybe I'll learn that skill a little quicker. But I do need time to process it, going kind of through the ups, the goods, the bads, pros, cons, whatever. One thing I have been able to sort of become more aware of recently is that even when I make a decision, if it's not quote right, I still made it, and I'll still figure out new ways to solve something or make it work better or be okay with the result that I got. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not perfect at everything and anything, and I know it's okay to choose something didn't go right and be okay with that and move on. Like, in some way, life is too short to beat yourself up all the time about a decision that you made. What about you? What's a big decision you made that changed the trajectory of your life, and how do you talked about processing.
Well, years ago, I was stuck working and I had a really good job, a real good paying job, I should say. And I decided I would sell the house that I owned at the time and move 4.5 hours away and keep the job that I still have or still had. And I didn't know that was going to set a whole new dimension into motion. And, I'd lived in the house for 13 years, and it's the second place in my life that I've lived over a decade in. I was the classic mover. It'll be different over there, and geographical cures were great, like even from one apartment to the next and different roommates. And so anyways, I moved up to this little town, Ashcroft in BC, and shortly after that, I met Lisa, and my life changed, and the trajectory of my life changed. Instead of doing blue collar labor work, I've become a coach, and I should say a successful coach. And I become an author. I book
That's
Perfect
right.
Storm up there, and Lisa's 2 books above us. You know, I never thought my life would have done that. And so making the decision to sell my house set a completely new catastrophic direction in my life. And now I still work. I do coaching online. I work on my houses when I go home. And yes, my houses, that's how we live our lives today, is by rental income and coaching income. And with that, we're able to travel around the world quite a bit. And that's where Suitcases and Soulmates came for us, or for me. And it is about unpacking your crap and getting new stuff in. Because if we don't clear to get the flow going through us, we got nothing. If we're stuck and there's no flow, because even if it's good or bad, the flow still can go through us, and if it's bad, it just goes through us that much faster. So
I had a friend that I met a few years ago remind me of something, and I think we do this well. We live in the land of and. So, and we are going to do this, and we are going to go on that adventure, and we are going to do this, and we're going to do a podcast, and we're going to do. So it's about really kind of experiencing life. And one thing I've really come to notice about you is that your creative juices go crazy. And so I love hearing all about your creative ideas to do things, whether it's fixing around our pool or some new idea for the house or whatever it is. And so I've come to learn that land of and with you It's a wonderful thing to be around. I love it. I do it, however, I might do it in my own office. Go all the time.
You know, I just want to say, if you're really stuck in your life, roll the dice and see where you end up. Uh, and I'm not saying blow your life up like I did. I did blow my life up pretty good, and it worked out for me. And it's a pretty courageous thing to change. In my adult life, like I was a stonemason for 27 years. You know how many people just stay in the same rut and do the same thing? And then I became a truck driver for a while. And then I became a Teamster member for the movie industry, and that was pretty interesting, but pretty chaotic. And, you know, life's about change. And if you're not willing to change and grow, you're going to stay stagnant. And
And it doesn't have to be your like majorly changing something as well. Like you don't have to quit your job and go do something different. Like for me, just recently, I started doing daily meditation, guided meditation. Well, that little shift for me in like has just kind of like, ooh, my brain and my capability of being present. Like that really doesn't cost anything except a little bit of quote unquote time. And you're not doing something major. However, I realize I'm focusing on me, I'm taking time to take care of me, whether it's self-care or whatever, because that whole understanding that if I take care of me, then I can better show up for other people. That's a huge, huge understanding in the last only few years. It's been kind of funny because I just met a friend a couple years ago, or a year and a bit ago, in the sort of author world. And I tell her in my old life, that's what I say, in my old life, she goes, like you were different at one point. Like I tell her, I'm like, I was pretty quiet. I would never get up on a stage. I would never speak to people, all this sort of stuff. Pretty quiet and anyway, nervous about sharing stuff. And she's like, wow. So yeah, so change is possible. The one of the big sayings, I don't know if I'll get it right. The most growth is at the edge of your comfort zone. It's something like sounds something like that. Um, and through Joe Payne, I believe he's from either Australia or New Zealand or something. Joe Payne, I listened to him in one of the author workshops one day, and he totally went because I used to in my first book. I think all the time I was saying, "Oh, out of my comfort zone, out of my comfort zone," and when I heard Joe Payne, I was kind of like, he said, "You're stretching your comfort zone, like you're kind of testing new boundaries," and so it's like, yeah, I'm always stretching my comfort zone, doing crazy stuff.
talking about stretching your comfort zone, years ago, I was in and out of 12-step programs for years, and I had one of my buddies, I was just brand new again, and he was, I think, 20 years in, and he's like, Scott, I see you and you live in this little box and you won't veer from this box. And I've kind of changed the analogy a little bit. It's like if you're living in this circle and just bouncing off this side and bouncing off that side and bouncing off this side, all you're doing is all the same stuff over and over and over again. And, you know, in the 12-step world, we call that the definition of insanity, of doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. Now, unless we can stretch that comfort zone, not step outside it, because we need to keep ourselves safe. And stretch it and keep stretching it and keep stretching it. Life happens and life changes like we would never even believe. And I can't even express the life that I have today and how I'm living today compared to how I lived before. Like I would have laughed at you and thought you were the crazy one.
Yeah, so like a few things that I believe, learned over the last couple of years of even coming here to Thailand. Um, what makes our life fulfilling? What would that be for you? What makes it the happiest it can be? And what do you know is important as for the reasons why you come to Thailand or
Well, I won't even say actually coming to Thailand. I do, part of what I like coming to Thailand about are the people. The people are so friendly. We
That's
actually
right.
went for a massage last night, couples massage. And the ladies that were massaging us were talking to each other. They're in Thai, so we don't have a clue what they could be laughing at us, but I don't really care. But they're laughing and having fun while they're working. And they don't make much money. And, you know, watching that transpire and watching the guys work on the houses around us and them laugh and joke and have fun. There's one guy, he's a tile layer. I've never seen the man not have a smile on his.
Or
He's just,
shoes on.
yeah, or shoes on. Uh, he's just happy, and that's what we all us furlongs call him, is happy, because we don't know his name and he doesn't speak English. And you know, but the coolest part for me is I have a friend, he's going through some stuff, and I know him, I know him from his work, right? And he's seen the change in me from a distance through social media and stuff. And you know what, he's been reaching out to have conversations lately. And you know, that's the coolest thing in the world, is just being able to be there for somebody. Because, you know, when I was at the depths of my depression and not wanting to be here, I had pushed almost everybody out of my life, and I was angry and bitter and miserable. And you know what? If you got friends in your life like that, love them, man. That's what they need. They don't need to be told what to do. They don't need suggestions. They just need to be loved. And we talk about that a lot of times. We'll just love you till you can love yourself. Well, you know what? People say that till they can't tolerate it anymore, and then they just go the other way. And that's when people need to buckle down and be there a little bit more for people. And like how I made it through my storm, I have no idea.
Mhm.
It's all in my book, but uh
Yeah, so with that, we'll end off with that. So our books, for those of you that are listening to this on Spotify. So my two books that I wrote, the first one was A Year of Love, but my first year of personal growth and my journey with Scott, our first year together. And my second book is called 6 Months of Love. And you described your book.
well, at first I was gonna say, call my book The Brearley Family Nightmare. I was a terror in my family. I was the youngest. I had a pretty rough upbringing. And being the youngest, I picked up all the bad traits from everybody. I think I got some from everybody in the family, and I ran with it. And I ran with it. And at 7, I was almost killed by a car, in which I truly believe transformed the trajectory of my life to where by the time I was 20, I was already in AA for the second time or third time. I'd been around in and out a few times. And, you know, since then, I found out some other stuff. And however, life doesn't change unless we pursue it.
Mm.
Like, I got a friend, Mel. He talks about what, you think a fairy's going to come around and sprinkle foo-foo dust on you and life's going to get better. And I used to laugh when he said that. And because it was like, what's this crazy old man talking about? And you know what? He's true. What he's saying is get off your ass and do it. And make the decisions that are good for you.
And I would like to add a caveat, I don't know if that's the right word, to your book, My Perfect Storm, because we've had a few people mention this, that it can be a triggering book, because there is so much in your life that people resonate with the trauma and the hurt and the sadness, and they connect to those things, and it can bring up a lot of stuff for other people as well. So when you are reading My Perfect Storm, understand that that is Scott's story, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's sharing this story to let you know that you're not the only one going through challenging times in your life, and there is possibility to make a decision all the time to do something different so you can get different results in your life. And if you like, I forgot to mention my book, 6 Months of Love. I didn't say boo about it yet. If you like to see a little bit more about Thailand and you're interested in that adventure, the 6 Months of Love is our first 6 months in Thailand. So come join us on our journey. Thank you very much for joining us for our podcast number 4. And like I said, you can find us at the Brearleys and on Spotify. And you can come and meet us at forwardwalkingchoices.com. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.
Kabunka.
Hey, everybody, this is our 4th podcast, Suitcase and Soul.
No. Yeah. That.
Take 3.